Come on.
He's showing them that he's not one of these old magicians, these sorcerers, or these old voodoos. He's showing the people that I'm real. Now you know, saints, you remember. Now the devil done told people, got people's minds so confused. They got them thinking that God's not who he said he is.
All right.
And you know what? A lot of people, and you know, for those of you who don't know the word, don't know him, that's why he said you need to know me for yourself.
Right.
So you can tell the difference between the voice. But the devil got people's minds so messed up. And a lot of them is truly bleeding right now today. That God is not who he said. He said, if God is who he say he is, why is he letting your loved one die?
Come on.
He says God is who he say he is.
All right.
Why is he letting us suffer?
Come on.
Well, saints, you know, remember one thing. God went through something for us. He didn't have to do it, but he did it.
Right.
He did it because he loved each and every one.
Yeah.
But you know what, saints? When God say peace, be still.
Yeah.
And you don't listen because you don't know who that voice is.
Come on.
Because you don't know who it is.
All right.
But when you sit back and listen, anybody can tell you anything. But when you disobedient to God, when you don't listen to God, when you don't put God first, we don't serve. Remember one thing, saints. God created each and every one of us to be a servant.
Come on.
So how can you sit when he tell you to stop? When he say peace be still, how can you do what you want to do instead of doing what God wants you to do?
All right.
Well, saints, that's what's wrong with the world today. The people in the world would do what they want to do instead of doing what God wants you to do. Now look at us, saints. We wasn't right here all our life.
Right.
We wasn't where we at now and stuff. Remember when we was out in the world? We all was disobedient. We weren't listening to God.
Right.
God was the one that was waking us up each and every day, and he was giving us a chance and opportunity to get our life together. That's why he said you need to have your house in order. When we was out there, okay, now just like Elder Brown, when God used Elder Brown, he was preaching the word. He had me laughing because you know what? We was doing what we wanted to do, same. When me and Elder Brown was out there in the world, when we drank our little wine and everything, you know, now remember one thing, I want you to remember this. We lived on Newstead and Carter. So what we doing way on Mount Cree and 39th Street? You know why? Because we was letting the devil take control of our mind instead of us letting God take control of our mind. Instead of us doing what God wanted us to do, we was doing what we wanted to do. And you know what? When we was out in the world, the Bible say you can accomplish the whole world, but you can lose your soul. And you know what? When me and Elder Brown was riding around in that patrol car with that spotlight on it, oh, when we pulled up on McCree and 39th Street, man, around about 7, 8 o'clock at night, with all these guys. Now, remember, we ain't got a gun, we ain't got only thing we got is a bottle of alcohol. That's all we, and that right there was leading us.
Right.
That was controlling us. That what was telling us to jump out. When we jumped out, I told him, keep your hands so I can see it. Don't put your hands down. And me and Elder Brown jumping out like we real police. You see? And we got the spotlight. We walked up there and we looked at them, and they got all that money on the ground. They got their alcohol. And you know what was running through my mind, but I said, well, no, I don't want to take that chance. But what was running through my mind and stuff, man, was getting some of that money to go and get some more drink. See? But you know what, though? But me and Elder Brown, we told him, we said, we're going to give y'all one chance. One chance only. Get your money, get your dice, and leave. We get you back out here again, we locking you up. And you know what, Saints, I'm going to tell you something. Last year, around November, I was at church. It was a beautiful day. I was sitting here with my brothers and sisters praising God. I enjoyed myself. And when I went home, my 2 sons and my wife was in the living room. They said, what's up, Pate? I said, hey, how y'all doing? And I stayed in there, talked to him about 20 minutes, and then I said, well, let me go in the room and get myself situated. Now, remember, it was shining outside, man. It was nice. It was hot. It was beautiful. And all of a sudden, when I was back there getting myself together, changing my clothes, I heard this thunder. It say, boom, 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 boom. And I jumped because it threw me. I know when I came in, it wasn't raining. But I went and looked out the window, and the sun was still shining, but it was sprinkling. So I called my wife. I said, would you come in here and check it? When she said, what's wrong? The thunder scared the big baby. I said, but you know what? Okay, and so they was in there talking. I was getting ready. They was in there maybe about 20 more minutes. Then they came and they said, well, Pate, we finna get ready to go. I said, okay. Well, my wife said, Keon, that's my baby boy. She said, Keon, you need to stay here. You shouldn't be trying to drink. You've been drinking. Stay here. Yeah. You know, he was like, Mama, don't worry about it. I'm all right, Mama, don't worry. But you know what, though? Okay, so he went on and they left. They wouldn't even go not even 15 minutes. Well, when the phone rang, I heard my wife, man, she was in there on the phone. She said, that was my daughter. My daughter was calling, talking about her fiance. My wife said, well, put him out. That's your house. You ain't got to tell me, put him out. You know, she said, look, I'm finna get off this phone. I ain't got time for that. So I said, come on, let's go and get ready in a minute so we can go to the store. So I said, about 5 minutes, we was getting ready to go out the door. The phone rang. So I'm out the door and I'm waiting on her and stuff. I'm like, I'm glad when she come on. I heard my wife say, oh, Lord, please, no, Lord, don't let him die. I said, I know good well this boy ain't done nothing to my daughter. That's the first thing that came to my mind. But you know what? It was my daughter calling. Now, remember my wife tried to talk to my sons about not leaving. Yes. Well, when they left, they went right there on South Kings Highway, right across Chippewa. Well, it's a curve right there where that AutoZone. Well, what happened was they wheel locked up on them. And when the wheel locked up, they flipped over so many times. And they called my daughter and told my daughter called my wife. So I told her, I said, well, just calm down. I said, God will take care of it. Just put your trust in God. You know? Well, when we got up there, boy, Saints, I wish I could have seen that car. That car on the bottom of that car, that dry shell and everything else, it looked like somebody just tore it from under there. And it was on top of the hood. The window was all broke out. And when I looked in there, it looked like a hurricane went through there. But you know what, though? It didn't come to me that this was God. He was talking to me when the sun came in, when the rain and the thunder. That was God trying to get my son in attention to tell him, peace be still.
All right.
Peace be still. All right. But you know what? When we don't listen to God, when we do what we want to do, instead of doing what God wants, saints, look at the price we have to pay. All right. Look at the price we have to pay. And you know what? Sometimes the price that we pay might not be a price that we want to see.
That's right.
But you know what? The type of God we serve, that plays a big role. Because if we had a God that do like some of us, when we treat each other right, and then when we need you, you turn your back on us, then we get mad. We be upset. We sit back there and talk about what we did, how we was there for you. But you know what? Even though they didn't listen to God, even though man and stuff, man, they didn't stop. Listen. And then not only, man, did he did that, but remember, he spoke through my wife. He told me my wife, man, spoke to her to tell him, don't go. Yeah. But when he said up and told me, well, Mom, it's going to be all right. Well, you know what? Yeah. He's blessed because my oldest son was telling us when the car was flipping, we're now running them in the seatbelt. He said he grabbed my youngest son's head because half his body was going out the window. And as that car was flipping, it would have came down and smashed his whole head. But you know what? He said when it flipped the last time, his body got loose from his hand. But by then, he had to turned over, and his head, half his body went out that window. His head hit the ground.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, Lord.
That was what was wrong.
Uh-huh.
That was what's wrong with him and stuff, man. He had a gas in his head where he had to get staples.
All right.
But you know,